Using on the thing. So go ahead.
Yeah, I know it's just I guess just part of the magic, right, of technology nowadays, and just I love when different tools are able to work together, right? That's one of the things that I live for.
I love it. I didn't know Riverside knew that, and it detected the gear that I was using and asked me about certain settings, which I know about, but it's just cool that it knew that. So yay.
Exactly, just to double check in. Oh, great! So now we're live on YouTube. LinkedIn is live now as well, and Facebook Live is going now as well. It's going live now as well. Awesome. So, very excited about today's conversation with Kellan, who is who is has a very interesting story and just a lot of really good tactics on how to make use of today's topic, which is guerrilla marketing. He's going to talk about that and give us some very specific tactics on how to make the best use of this strategy in our digital efforts as well as in other channels. So, without further ado, I guess I just want to take the time to introduce our amazing guest today. And here he comes. Awesome. Thank you, Kellan. Welcome to today's episode. How are you doing?
I'm just glad to be here, and thank you for the drum roll and all that good stuff. And I hope to live up fully to all the hype you just gave me. So, yippee, here we are. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Very excited to discuss today's topic, and I'm very sure that a lot of people who are either listening live now or will be listening in the future are wondering what in the heck is guerrilla marketing. I know it's I know it has a lot of things to it, so why don't you just maybe start and tell us what this is about?
So, guerrilla marketing, a gorilla is spelled with Gorrilla is one of those hairy beasts, right? Guerrilla marketing spelled Guerrilla is like guerrilla warfare. The idea of guerrilla warfare is surprise. It is to do unexpected things. It is to show up in places that people are not thinking about and to do something that's unusual but still effective. So, guerrilla warfare or guerrilla marketing is not helpful if it's not useful. So it is the definition, and it was popularized by a fellow named J. Conrad Levinson probably 30 or 40 years ago. He created the term guerrilla marketing, and those of you that don't know J. Conrad Levinson, in people that study marketing in universities, so forth, he's a household name. He created some of the most effective ads that have ever
Wow.
been done forever. And he wrote a book, Guerrilla Marketing, and he was in school with people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs at UC Berkeley and all those guerrilla startups. And so the idea behind guerrilla marketing is how can we do low cost but effective marketing strategies to make people aware of the things that we're trying to sell. So that's what the idea behind guerrilla marketing is. Unusual, unexpected, sneaky, but not bad, but just unexpected, low-cost things that are still effective. So that's what guerrilla marketing means.
Wow, I love it. Sounds like a lot of things that many marketers or companies are trying to figure out today and learn how to do, but they just don't know how, right? And this is just bringing us the real, true, tried and true method for doing that.
Absolutely. So at the time when those guys created all that, it was the typical marketing was the internet wasn't here. So it was big budget, a lot of ad spend in magazines and newspapers and television ads and stuff. And little companies, just like today, don't have big budget. Today, it's not billboards on the side of the road. It's big budget in Facebook ads and big budget in other, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook ads or anything else, but it's Google ads, it's big spend, $2, $3, $5, $10 a click ads that we can't afford if we're a little company just trying to start up. And so the idea is how does a little startup or a smaller company compete and become noticed by the audience they want to be noticed for and do it without spending a boatload of cash. So that's the current languaging of what was then, big magazine ads and all that sort of stuff this years ago.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. And would you say? I mean, you mentioned something about this starting back in the day when internet marketing wasn't around and it was more traditional type of marketing, print, media, radio, right?
Mhm.
So, with that in mind, does this strategy, does guerrilla marketing in general still work? Is it still effective today?
It absolutely is. What you do is a little bit different because the internet does exist. But the problem, which is big companies with big ad budgets who buy whatever they buy. In those days, it was print, billboard, etc. Today, it's big spend on Google and Facebook and other big ad spends. They have all this marketing budget. And on the other side, you have little guys that are trying to make some noise and get noticed. And they feel bad or feel disadvantaged because they can't compete in terms of ad spend with the big guys. So
Exactly.
the problem is the same, and the guerrilla strategies, the precise actions aren't the same because you do have the internet, but the idea is still true. The idea is there are ways, depending on what you're marketing and who you're marketing to, but there are ways in every niche or every field to do marketing that is effective, that is not huge ad spend, in a way that allows you to create awareness and desire in the minds of your customer and compete effectively against people that do have big ad spend.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Kellan bringing us the truth and the value of this amazing strategy. Thank you for sharing that. And I think I agree with you 100%. I think it's like CRM, right? The concept, the actual concept of customer relationship management is a marketing. It's a marketing principle. It's a marketing truth, right? And it is regardless of whatever people understand now as software, as CRM software. Like before that, it has always been a methodology, right? A principle. And now technology enables it to work even better, to be more effective. But that does not mean that it didn't exist before, right? Or that it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly the same. We do it different. We used to have email, or not email, but databases of mailing, and they did lumpy mail, and they mailed things actually mail outs and stuff.
Direct
That
mail.
went way down. Yeah, now there's a resurgence in direct mail. So that went way down, and now one of the things that some marketers are teaching is go ahead and send out mailing because people now tend to open them more because they get too many emails, and this is a weird thing now. So if you get something in the mail, especially lumpy mail that's got something in it, people are desperate to open it and see what it is because it's got something in there, right? All right,
Exactly.
so that's exactly one of the things. That's the unexpected part. So notice what everybody else is doing and isn't doing. Here's something to think about. What things can you do that other people don't do, won't do, or haven't thought of? Don't do, won't do, or haven't thought of. So, for example, I know someone who used as a marketing tactic, they had a database of 1,200, and they individually wrote notes to 1,200 people. Yeah, it took them a few
Wow.
hours, but because they did that and put something in there and the notes were handwritten, they got a wildly good open rate and a response rate because they were personalized. And yeah, it took them many hours, several days or 4 days, writing all these little short, they were not long notes, but short notes and sending something in there. So that was something else, something that other people just wouldn't do. Oh, I'm not going to take all that time. That is the principle of guerrilla marketing. What will people, they're not willing to do, won't do, don't do, won't do, or haven't thought of.
Right. Or just don't dare to take that step. Just think it's not fancy, right? Or it's not a fit for them. And if that's what they want to think, that's fine, right? That's your opportunity to do something different.
That is your opportunity as a guerrilla marketer. So if you're going to be a guerrilla marketer, one of the things where I got certified, quote, as a guerrilla marketing trainer, is the woman, J. Conrad Levinson's dead, but his widow, Jeannie, has recreated the company and done a whole thing on guerrilla marketing, adapted to the present day with present internet and present everything, and went through a whole bunch of process to create some coursework and certification and all that other jazz. And I did all that. So I got certified, yay, as a guerrilla marketing trainer. But the idea was to help us learn to think of things others won't do, don't do, haven't thought of, or unwilling to do, that sort of thing.
Interesting. And like you just said, it's about taking into consideration all potential channels, right? So if your competitor has never done Google Ads, right? Or if the market that you're trying to conquer is not doing any Google Ads, if that niche is not good at that, well, that's your opportunity right there, right? If they are doing too much digital and nothing in the printed or physical world, well, then that's your opportunity, right? If nobody's doing a podcast, well, that's probably a channel, right? Of course, you want to do your research first and try to understand why they're not doing it. Maybe there's a reason behind that, which could also negatively impact your case. So you want to just do your homework and consider all possible channels.
Let me give you an example. You might know John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire podcast guy, right? When he started that podcast, he didn't just want to do a podcast because it was a lot newer then, so there were a lot fewer, but he still wanted to be different. So he said, okay, and here's the thinking process that he went through, and I'll tell you the results, and this is something you can do. The first principle is just because you have to think a little bit doesn't mean that was then, so the opportunity's gone. I can't do that anymore. That is a huge failing. Well, I know that may have been an opportunity once upon a time, but I can't do that now. That is where unguerrilla marketers fail and get thrown under the bus. People that are really willing to go after customers and go down the road I'm going to walk you down here are the ones that find success. So here's what John Lee did. He said, I'm going to do a business podcast. So he went and looked, and there were, how many business podcasts? And he said, okay, that's not unique enough. So I want to do a business podcast where I interview business owners live. Then he went and checked. There's still too many of those. Okay, so I'm going to do a business podcast where they interview business owners live once a week. There's still too many of those. And each number shrunk because he kept narrowing it down. And finally, when he got to, I want to do a business podcast where I interview business owners, and I'm going to do it live, and I'm going to do it every single day. When he got to that place, he was the only one. So he narrowed it enough to where he was the only interviewing entrepreneurs every single day on a podcast. Now, that was his path to get to where he was the only one doing a certain thing. That gave him no competition. There was no one else that was doing the kind of reach that he was doing. Now, people have copied him since, but he was the first. So he has the most episodes. He has the most cool people, the most. So one guerrilla principle is look hard enough to find out what nobody else or only one or two are doing. Right. What can you do that nobody else is doing? I'll give you another example of that. Gary Vaynerchuk, who we all know, influential dude to the universe. I had the fun of meeting him a few times when I was an MC at a conference, and he was the keynote speaker, and so I got a chance to meet with him. And the funny thing was I had a client who knew Gary when he was a kid, like 14, 15. And so when I met him afterwards, and I says, I got a client says she knows you when you were a kid. And he looked at me like, he's a very nice guy, by the way. He looked at me and he said, oh, what do you mean? And I said, well, her name is so-and-so. Her name is Barbara something. And he looked at me and said, Babs, and he knew her, and so we got to talk about her. And then a week later, he was in Australia, where she lives, and posted a picture of them together. Wow, but anyway, So here's what Gary did. Gary started, and we all know this story, with YouTube videos about wine tasting, because his parents are in the wine business. So took advantage of something. Here's what people don't remember most of the time. He did over 1,000 daily YouTube videos. That's one a day for 3 years. That consistency changed the world for him, because he was that guy who did 1,000 of those every day in his basement, looking stupid the first 500, and on and on and on. So just like John Lee, he went and found something nobody else was doing and did it.
I love that. Can we get some love there? I think it's super true, right? And you need to think about how narrow can you go? We have a very vivid audience. How much can you narrow, right? Like, how deep can you go to the point where there is, like you just said, there is nobody or one or two, just like a few people who are doing that. And the consistency then, right? Like, I can't imagine, like 1,000 episodes, that's more than 3 years of daily posting, right? So including Christmas, including Saturdays, including Sundays, like every day off, every regional holiday, whatever, like you still do it. It's consistency.
That, I want to agree wholeheartedly and emphasize what you've said. Consistency, here's another principle, this is to write down. Consistency trumps content. Now, what I mean, I don't mean you can post garbage. You can't. But the fact that you are consistent will override the fact that maybe everything isn't exactly like you'd like it to be. Consistency trumps content. If you do something, and you don't have to do it every day. If your cadence is 3 times a week, then every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday you do this. And I'll give you another example. And this one's mine. At the beginning of the pandemic, so Gary's and John Lee's were several years ago. This is just last year. At the beginning of the pandemic, March of 2020, the lockdowns were just starting. And so someone who knows that I do motivational speaking and that sort of thing called my wife, who is my business partner, and said, "Does Kellan have a podcast?" I did not. But she said, she knew, okay, lockdowns are just starting. So she said to him, "Yes." And then she came downstairs and said to me, "We have a podcast." So I started in March of 2020, which is about 20 months ago, a podcast called Your Ultimate Life. I decided to do a daily, short, 15-minute podcast helping people with the idea of how to create the ultimate life, which I define as a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy by serving with your divine gifts. I just recorded yesterday episode 538. Now that
Congratulations.
when we moved, I missed a couple of days, but it's been very consistent. Now that consistency has done that, and that has done good for me. It's gotten me the opportunity to talk here and dozens of other places. My point isn't yay me. My point is that principle still matters.
Of course. There are certain approaches and just lifetime principles that, of course, continue to be relevant.
Absolutely. And so whatever you choose, so going back to guerrilla marketing, podcasts are free. Facebook Lives are free. LinkedIn Lives are free after you get approval. Instagram Reels are free. Reels are being pushed really hard by Instagram right now. So that 15, 30, or 60-second video is a fun thing. One thing that's fun about Instagram Reels is you can record them in sections. So as long as you leave the recording on, you can record a few seconds and then go over here and record a few seconds. And so it creates jump cut action and some fun stuff. You can do it right on your phone. You can then put colors and, other language and text overlays and all kinds of stuff on it that are fun, and it's easy to do. And Instagram is pushing those right now, so they're easy to find. And then put language on there to check your bio, and in your Instagram bio, of course, you can put links to your website or your lead magnet page, landing page, or whatever you like to do. So keeping the principle is this: consistency. To understand what's being pushed by the mediums themselves. Like Instagram isn't interested in my business or yours, but they are interested in pushing a new technology forward. So if you understand that and you say, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that they're doing that, and you start doing those every day, you get traction, and it's free, which is one of the principles, low cost, of guerrilla marketing.
I love it. Yeah, and so you have to pay attention to, say, Instagram wants to hook users with new stuff, keep them inside their ecosystem, their platform, right? Spending time, having a good time there, connecting with more people. So obviously you're not going to beat Instagram, right? You're not going to go against it. You want to go with it and go with the flow that they are trying to push with the new feature, the new product, the new service. So that's where you have to join, think about that. And just even if you have to switch all your strategy and be able to join that new wave, that makes sense. You're going to get results.
So you've just listed another principle of guerrilla marketing, again, meaning low cost, but effective marketing, and that is flexibility. So if you have to change your approach to go with the flow, there are only two considerations. One, does that new thing address your target audience? So if you're marketing to people that are 60 and over, Instagram Reels may not be very interesting because the demographic using Instagram Reels aren't older baby boomers like me, except because I'm a marketer, I'm using them, because I love video, I'm using them, and because I dance and sing and do weird stuff on videos, I use them.
Awesome.
But I use them. You see what I'm saying? So know your demographic, get flexible, and then you have permission to be weird. Because if you look at TikTok, if you look at the Instagram Reels, the things that get attention are what stops the scroll. And all these things we're talking about are free. They're free. The only thing it takes is your consistency, your choice and determination to, one, follow the trends so you know what's effective, two, use good hashtag strategy because IG is about driving hashtags, and then three, be consistent. None of that costs any money. It's all just your energy.
Time and creativity, right? Energy, time, and creativity.
Yep.
And that, consistency will outrank creativity as long as it is good enough, right?
Well, yeah, you don't want to post garbage. I'm not suggesting that. But I know people that agonize, oh, what do I look like? And is it okay? And, is my background right? Am I saying the right things? Oh, I stuttered and I stumbled. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Show up, be dependable, and be enjoyable. Be authentic, be real. That way trumps perfection in production values.
100%. So would you say these are all the principles of guerrilla marketing? Are we still missing some?
Well, there are. So here are some other principles that will change depending on your product and your niche. So, for example,
Right.
I write books. I've written 15 books. I have 8 underway. So one of the things I'm doing to market books is I'm looking at what are the different book marketing things. Well, there's Amazon, obviously, but there are other things like Goodreads and Readsy. And, there are people who do nothing but tell you how to write ads or how to BookBub, things that, unless you're doing books, you will never have heard of. Like, what's BookBub, huh? Sounds like something out of the Flintstones. Yeah, okay. Except for if you write books, it's a big deal. So the principle is know the platforms for your specific stuff. Another one is music. I own a recording studio. I do music. I did 2 new albums that went one album each with one of the 2 books that I did. I'm looking now, right now, this is today, I'm looking at Spotify list marketing processes. So how can I get the albums I have marketed as Spotify playlists? But that's very narrow. That's targeted to music and or podcasts. So the principle is understand the unique pieces that belong to your product or your audience or both, so that you can maximize those. There are so many free things. Now, the last thing I want to make sure you know about is another giant growing opportunity, and that's Clubhouse. Clubhouse started a
100%.
year plus ago as a small invitation-only platform. It has grown explosively. It is now anybody can join. I got invited to join back in February when it was all, I just barely heard about it, and I thought, I should fill out an application. Well, I happened to have a high-powered friend that I didn't know was in there, and he saw me, and so 10 minutes later, I got a note that said, "You've been moved to the front of the line." So I felt, yay, me, But anyway, I got a chance to jump in there. But even now, my wife, who's my business partner, she's on there every day. Here's what her experience is. She's gone from nobody to being invited regularly on stage to speak in different rooms. Consistency and being involved in these rooms. So she doesn't take hundreds of hours. She just has it playing in the background. She loves things like nutrition, healthy eating, and then she does some marketing stuff because she handles the marketing for our business. So she does those things, and now she's noticed and is being brought on stage by people like John Lee, who's in the UK, who's a big Instagram marketer, and other people like that. And the only way she did that, she didn't send him a bunch of money. She didn't buy him gifts. She didn't be weird. She just showed up in his room, raised her hand a few times, a few dozen times, eventually got called on, said something intelligent, got invited up on stage. Now they know her. Oh, Joy's in the room. My wife's name's Joy. Joy's in the room. Joy, what do you think about? And there you go. And she did that, doing nothing except what I've described to you. No magic.
She earned it.
Yeah. She showed
earned that
up.
position.
She showed up.
So showing up and, of course, being attentive, listening to what is being said, talked about, and sharing something valuable with the audience.
Yeah, but she's not, it isn't like she has a PhD in this and that. She digs around on the internet on things like that she's interested in, nutrition and healthy food and juicing and this and that. But she doesn't have some special insider goodies. That's the thing I guess I'm trying to, as a coach, one of the things I hear a lot from people is, yeah, you or they might be able to because they got whatever, fill in the blank. Me, I got nothing. I'm nobody. I'm whatever. So I'm trying to address that by saying that is crap. Anything that you're interested in, that you've dug around a bit on the internet here and there about, you have got the chops. Go, open your mouth, show up, be energized, and speak, and you can be heard.
100%. I love that. And I think, a lot of the new creators and upcoming entrepreneurs sometimes do get that fear and don't even know where to start and just think that they're not good enough. There is no reason in doing this. And the thing is, somebody will do it. Somebody who was probably equally or even less talented than you, less capable, with less resources, with less budget, and they will do it. Right?
I got another story for you. Who knows, in your audience, or Mr. Beast on YouTube? He's one of the largest viewed people on YouTube. And he does crazy things, gives away $1 million and this and that. His name is Jimmy Donaldson, but his handle is Mr. Beast. I've watched him grow from nothing to where now he puts out a video, and in the first week he'll have 100 million views, right? Now, I happen to know him. I happen to know the guy who mentored him. The guy who mentored him and helps him now runs Vid Summit every year in Los Angeles, and his name's Daryl Eves. Now, Daryl's a friend of mine, and I've emceed. That's where I met Gary, is emceeing his conference. here's what I know. Jimmy Donaldson started as a gamer who was broadcasting dumb game things live stream on Twitch. Okay, and he showed up consistently. He wasn't afraid to be weird, and he just kept going and doing things. And now, today, he is one of the top, I don't know, he might be the top on some weeks, most viewed YouTuber in the world with billions of views. And of course, he makes all kinds of money because all kinds of advertisers want to be on, be mentioned on his shows and get placements and things like that. So he makes a lot of money doing nothing except being weird, and he started out as a gamer. And his videos get hundreds of millions of views. And if you don't know him, whoever's listening to this, look him up, Mr. Beast on YouTube. And if you know him, you don't know this unless you know his name's Jimmy Donaldson. He started out as a gamer broadcasting stuff on Twitch.
That's amazing. It's the power of technology, and then just the power of consistency, right? Just the power of showing up, not being afraid, and then just starting with something and keeping at it. What do you think is the main thing that makes people give up sometimes?
We live in a download and double click world. What I mean by that is we believe in two things that are a problem. One, we think we're entitled to things, that somehow it's supposed to be easy and I'm entitled to success. We're not entitled to anything. We'll get what we go get. The second thing is once we also sometimes suffer from the idea that if we try a little bit, it ought to work. And that's what I mean by download and double click. We're sort of taught that everything can be solved in the length of a TV sitcom, where a problem presents itself and in 22 minutes why it should be solved, which is the actual broadcast length of a sitcom, right? Or 42 minutes for an hour. Nothing in life works that way. But we become infected with the idea that if somehow it doesn't work quickly, we suck or we shouldn't be doing it. Neither one of those are true. You don't suck. You have a gift, you have talents, you have something that you could do and make a difference in the world so that people pay you for whether or not you entertain them, whether or not you educate them, whether you do something to lift, bless, brighten, or make more fun their life, or you sell them a product or service. The key to this, the reason most people give up is it's hard. They give up and then they have a story about that. Heck, I've done that. If you read any of my backstory, I struggled for 40 years. That's 40, not 14, with MDD, major depressive disorder. And I had all kinds of struggles. And I wrote a book called Tightrope of Depression, my journey from darkness, despair, and death to light, love, and life. Like the idea that somehow you're owed this or it's going to be easy. Man, I want to sign up for that world because I sure haven't lived in it. That's the reason everybody just gives up.
It's also a matter of priorities sometimes, isn't it? Where I'm too comfortable. I like the life I'm living. I like it enough. I don't have to wake up that early or get uncomfortable talking to this person or invest in that time making that video. I would rather sit and watch what others are doing, right? I would rather go on vacation. I would rather eat a hamburger. I would rather just not exercise, like whatever it is the case in whatever world you're in, right? It's just easier, and it also has to do with priorities. So a lot of people would prefer to do all that stuff or just be okay with what they're doing rather than be excited, uncomfortable, but learning.
And I want to not only agree with you, but I want to give all those people that would rather do that permission. You have permission to live your life like that and not feel guilty. Just don't expect anything extraordinary to happen to you. You have permission to binge watch Netflix until you're blue in the face. You have permission to watch everything everybody else creates and live that way, and it's okay. but don't
Of course,
expect
absolutely.
extraordinary things to happen. That is reserved for the people that will get uncomfortable, that will get up early, that will do weird things and fail a bunch of times and fall on their face. The people that will do that, don't do, won't do, haven't thought of, which we talked about at the beginning, they're the ones that are going to go claw their way to the top of some mountain. So you're free to live at the bottom watching, or you can get up and crawl and claw and fight and drag and dance your way to the top. It's your call.
It's 100% your call, and it's your choice, right? Just like, and this is something that Gary says as well. Just don't complain, right? Just don't complain. You have no permission to complain.
You have no permission to complain because we don't live in a download and double click world. We think we're going to download the solution, double click, and it all goes away. That's why people buy course after course after course. They're not really looking for the tools to do the work. They're looking for what I call the secret sauce that they sell on aisle 13 and a half in Safeway, which is the sauce that I pour on my current life and get a different result. Except there's no aisle 13 and a half and there's no such sauce.
Absolutely. Now, say, okay, I've decided to jump on this train and I've started my own business. I've been running my little shop for over a year. It's not doing as well as it could. I'm kind of feeling bad about it. But I listened to this episode. I hear about what Kellan said on guerrilla marketing. What strategy? What would you recommend I do? What strategy? How should I start?
The most effective thing I've ever done, whether it was overcoming depression, whether it was building a business, whether it was launching my podcast, the single most effective thing I've ever done is to get a good coach. And the reason is because when you try to do stuff by yourself, it is too easy, or at least it was for me, to get discouraged, to make excuses, and to give up. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I can't. Maybe they're right. All of those excuses that we've all heard and said. When you have a good coaching container, and I call it a coaching container because there's lots of ways that can look, then you have someone who believes in you, who cares about you, and who isn't willing to live with you in those excuses. So a good coaching container, group coach, individual coach, whatever it is, has been the most effective for me to challenge those things and to say, okay, do I really want to do this? No more excuses. And that means whether it's consistency in how you show up in different social media, whether it's what are the ideas? Where can I show up? What can I do? How can I improve my languaging, my product presentation, all of the things about business growth, which has to do with market message and I forgot the third M. Medium, market message and medium, how I'm presenting it. Is it video? Is it audio? Is it written? What is the message or the product that I have? And then who am I selling it to is the market. So whatever it has to do with, that has been the most effective for me. So I've read lots of books. I've read hundreds of books. They're all wonderful, but the actual practical application, the most effective thing for me has been to find a good coaching container and then stick with it so that I have my butt kicked at the right time, somebody to celebrate with me, and somebody that actually cares that I make it.
Someone to keep you accountable, right? Some sort of accountability partner, which also makes a huge difference. A lot of times,
well, that's,
and just so we don't get trapped in our own heads, right? Listening to, oh, I suck. Oh, I'm not too good. I don't have the skills. Oh, this is so hard. I don't know how to do it. And then a lot of times, these coaches or a mentor or whomever you're working with, this accountability partner, may know a person who can help you solve that problem, may know of a tool to get this fixed, may give you the right words, the encouragement, or help you remember why you started this in the first place, why you're doing it, and why you should keep going.
I love that, because what I've discovered as a coach is more than any individual strategy, oh, try this cool thing, more effective than any of those is to really remember what you said, which is why I'm doing this. Who am I? Who do I choose to be in the world? And what does that look like? Like, why am I doing this anyway? Remembering that, and I just had a coaching call this morning with a guy that's got a very successful business and he's doing well and everything. And the most important thing we did on the call was to remind him how cool he was, what he was really doing, and how many people he was really helping, because that changed the color of all of the rest of the conversations about the tactics and what to write and all of this. It changed the flavor of all those things when it was in the context of, look what I'm doing, instead of, oh, I got to do this.
They basically helped him remember who he really was.
That's, to me, that's the biggest deal. Like, who are you? You get to decide. Nobody can tell you who to be. You get to choose who you're being, and a good coaching container will help you identify and remember that, because that memory is the engine that drives the consistency, that drives the message, that drives the search for the don't do, won't do, haven't thought of, so you can find the thing that will set you apart.
Even if you are just doing it to work with them and not feel like you're letting them down, type of thing, right? Just to prove that you're actually willing to do the work and you're actually getting to do what you need to do to get to whatever it is that you're trying to get to.
Totally. So that, you asked, the most effective thing for me was to get a good coaching container, a coach, a group, something that let me have a place to talk, to vent, to be supported, not to commiserate and feel sorry for me. Oh, we all understand. Screw that. But to hear the stories and then say, well, what about this? What about that? Are you really ready to give up and sit at the bottom of the mountain and watch the others hike? No, boom, I'm going. All right, cool. What does that look like?
Hitting the right spots, right?
You bet.
And I love it, because motivation is like, there are two important things that I've heard about this. One is motivation is like a shower, right? You have to take it every day, or almost every day, or as often as possible, because it goes away, right? It wears away after you don't shower for a day, you start smelly, you start to change your appearance. So it's just the same with motivation. You need to do it daily, like do whatever, whether it is go out for a run, listen to a podcast, talk to your coach, talk to your partner, whatever it is that gives you that motivation to keep going, and then stick to it, right? And then number two, purpose, right? Which is what is going to keep you on the game for the long term. Because of course, it's not all about motivation. You can be 100% highly motivated, but you don't know why you're doing things, or what to do even. Right, so there is no point in having all the energy if having a car with a tank full of gas if you don't know where you're going.
Completely agree. And you know what the cool thing about this is? You, me, we get to pick our purpose. We don't have to do what someone else says we need to do, should do, ought to do, have to do. You should act. Screw that. Figure out what lights your fire, that motivates you, that you love to be and do and see, and then go do that better than anyone else because you want to.
Because it's yours. It's what defines you, and the reason why you wake up every day.
Yep.
Well, that's been awesome, Kellan. Thank you so much for sharing this. Now, there is a spot where I'm gonna ask. Because I'm sure people want to know how to get in touch with you. But before we get into that, I want to make sure to check in with you. Is there anything else that you would have liked me to ask you, and maybe I didn't ask you, or anything that you would like to share with the audience before we finish today's episode?
Yeah, there are two things. First of all, I want to honor you, because here you are doing something that lights your fire, that makes you feel good, to add good to the world and help people be their best selves. So I call that adding good to the world, and this is a way that you've chosen to add good to the world, and I love it. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
The second thing is, I don't care how many times you've failed. I don't care where you are now. I don't care what's happened to you. I don't care who's beat you down or what bad situations have happened to you. And if you've read my history, you know that I've had a pile, but we're not comparing here. I don't care where you are now. It is never too late to make a big difference, to get on the road and to succeed at your goals. So I don't care where you've been. You can always quit. And you know where that road goes? Nowhere. So it's never too late to matter and to have a big impact as you find and lean into your real life purpose. I call it your divine purpose. Lean into it, and it's never too late.
And be it whatever shape or form you decide it to be, right? It could be being a better parent, becoming a great employee, being a great public service officer, whatever it is, right? A business owner, a writer, a musician, a dancer, a housekeeper, whatever it is, you can really make a difference and just fulfill yourself, fulfill your own purpose.
What's cool about that is one of the things I talk about in the idea of your ultimate life is you get to define your purpose. If the time of your life right now is to be the very best parent or the very best entrepreneur or the very best dancer or author or artist or visionary or leader or employee, you get to decide it. And by leaning into that purpose that you've declared for this day, week, month, year, decade, you can have happiness today. It isn't, oh, I'll be happy someday when I get to. Like, there's no reason you can't be happy today.
Today. And I think that's the key to success, right? You need to be, I mean, when you're happy, when you're happier, you're going to be more successful. You're going to be actually feeling grateful for what you have and then being ready to do even more.
You've identified a key principles. A lot of times we have that backwards, which is we think I'll be successful, then I'll be happy. And you said, gee, I'll be happy, then I'll be successful. And that's the right order.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Now, for all those who are excited to maybe get to know you more, maybe interact with your business, with your product services, how can people reach out to you, or what's the best way to get in touch with you or your team, your business?
So one of the fun things about having a really weird name like Kellan Fluckiger is that I'm super easy to find. If you Google there are only 2 out of 8 billion
Wow.
in the world, and the other one is my son. So you can
Really?
Google my
That's
name,
awesome.
and there are thousands of references because I used to be an executive and this, that, and the other. My testimony before Congress is still online, all kinds of stuff. But my website is my name, www.kellanfluckiger.com, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm super easy to find. You do have to spell my name right. But if you do that, I've got books all over Amazon. I've got music. I'm on Spotify. I'm on everywhere in the world. And I'm really easy to find. So all you got to do is spell my name right. You can get on my list if you want to on the website. I talk about how to create your ultimate life and all that stuff. So the key to finding Kellan is to figure out how to spell my name.
Awesome. I love it. And that's just to make sure we all get it right. That's Kellan, Key, Ellan, Fluckiger, which is Fluckiger.
That's right, Kellan Fluckiger. If you put that in right, you'll have no problem finding me anywhere.
Wonderful. I love it. Well, thank you, Kellan. I really appreciate your time. This has been an amazing episode, and I leave here very grateful and very excited to continue doing even more stuff, and definitely looking forward to having you some future time to hear more about your endeavors and achievements.
Thank you for having me today, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to honor you and to serve your guests.
Thank you. Until next time. Okay, so all we have to do